Hello and welcome to English with Vlad podcast. Today we are going to talk about the science of micro-shadowing. Probably you all heard about shadowing as the exercise to improve your pronunciation, speaking, and in general to improve your English. So today I'll try to break down the idea of shadowing, give you some examples, and share with you the experience I've had personally with shadowing, as well as the experience of my students. So first, why shadowing works? Well, scientifically, we can explain it in the following way, that our brains have special neurons that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else doing it. In fact, my friend in his mental fitness gym community pointed that out quite recently, that the brain cannot distinguish between the imagined experience and the real experience. So brain reacts the same way. So when it comes to shadowing, it works exactly the same way. Shadowing tricks your brain into thinking you are the one producing the native speech, creating a direct neural shortcut to fluency. You are basically fooling your brain into thinking that you are speaking. Another point is the production effect. So research in cognitive psychology shows that the act of producing a word, basically speaking it, right, creates a much stronger memory trace than recognizing a word, hearing or reading the word. You aren't just memorizing, you are encoding the language into your long-term memory because you are basically focusing on the production and not just consumption or recognizing those words. That's very important to keep in mind, the practical side of shadowing, because just like with a reading aloud, it's a shortcut to better speaking. You are essentially pronouncing and speaking the same way as if you were sharing your own thoughts, your own speech, right? And the last point, just to prove you that shadowing really works, is that you are basically overcoming the foreign language syndrome. Speaking a new language feels clumsy, awkward, and uncomfortable because your mouth muscles aren't just used to those specific movements. So shadowing is literally physical therapy for your tongue and lips, because when you are shadowing, you are essentially training your speaking apparatus to pronounce those words and to speak. Now, when it comes to shadowing, it's important to understand what kind of materials you can choose for that practice. Essentially, we don't shadow to learn what to say, but rather how to say it. And for that reason, you have to choose speakers who demonstrate perfect control over their rhythm and melody of speech, also intonation, pauses, in general, good public speakers. Let me give you a few examples from our community. By the way, in the community we have a collection called Gold Standard of English, and there I present every week one speaker that is particularly interesting and just right speaker for us to emulate. So, of course, there are lots of great speakers, but you know what I'm talking about. When you hear that particular person speaking, you say like, wow, that's really good English, and I want to speak like them, right? So, here are a few examples from a few recent posts in our community. First one is James Clear. In the community, I posted an interview of James Clear on Huberman Lab podcast. There they talk about habits, obviously, because James is known for his book Atomic Habits. He speaks in clean, logical segments, and his speech is very easy to understand. It's great for professionals who want to sound authoritative and organized. Next one is Ethan Cross. I shared his appearance in Modern Wisdom podcast, where they discuss his book and, in general, psychological principles. He is a great example of how to handle complex ideas with very natural conversational pace. And the last example is Jim Rohn. the power of pause, basically. He's a master of rhythm. He knows when to pause, when to speed up his speech, and when to use silence and emphasis to really drive his point across and to make his point hit harder. Alright, so as I said, you can access these and many other speakers in our community. In particular, we have a collection called Gold Standard, and that collection keeps being upgraded and updated on the weekly basis. So when you find the right speaker and it's time to actually practice shadowing, you need basically three components. Number one is, of course, the text. You have to see the text of that speech. This removes the guessing game, right? You might hear something, you might not hear the word, but when you see the word, your brain really connects the spelling to the real sound that is pronounced by native speaker. And in this way, you are correcting all possible mistakes in pronunciations that you previously had. The second one, in addition to the text, so you need the text, right? The second one is the audio or video. It doesn't matter. This is your main part of shadowing because you are listening to the correct pronunciation, intonation, and so on. And then you are shadowing, copying that intonation, pronunciation, and in general, the flow of that speech. And of course, the third component is actually executing and repeating and mocking that native speaker. Yeah, you should try to match the speaker's intonation, pauses, maybe even gestures if you have the video. Why? Because they can physically change the way you speak. So if the speaker, for example, is getting emotional and starts waving his or her hands, it's okay to do that too, because this way you have even better chance of shadowing that particular sentence correctly. So now you have all the components, you are ready to practice shadowing, but what are the things you should pay attention to? So first of all, of course, is the intonation. Does the pitch rise or fall? English is a very musical language, and you have to get that particular rhythm, right, of the speaking, yeah? And if you get the melody wrong, you might sound robotic or unnatural. Second thing to pay attention to is sentence stress. English is a stress-timed language, and we basically compress, squeeze unimportant words like the, of, to, and so on. You notice that very often native speakers just almost swallow them, and that's what you should be doing as well. So listen for which of the words native speakers kind of shout and which ones they whisper, right? The next component of speech that you have to be paying attention to is linking, right? Native speakers don't say words individually or in syllables. No, they link them together. For example, wait a minute, wait a minute. They don't say wait a minute. It sounds like wait a minute. Focus on those bridges between the words, connect them together. But of course, everything requires practice. Practice will make it perfect, and practice will make it permanent. Now let's talk about the idea of micro shadowing. It would be, of course, great to start shadowing a 5-minute video or audio, but in reality you have to start with small pieces. I call this micro shadowing. You have to focus on quality over quantity. Traditional shadowing is often too long, leading to mumbling, and it leads to the idea of practicing a huge portion of the text and audio where you don't even commit things to memory. But microshadowing focuses on 5 to 10 seconds of audio. So try also to apply the loop philosophy. Students benefit a lot from treating one sentence like a musical phrase, repeated many, many times, and perfect that pronunciation. Try to sound just like a native speaker. You will feel when you've reached perfection. And if you were able to do that with one sentence, You will then be able to do it with 100 sentences, and that's how you achieve better and more consistent results. That's it for today, guys. If you want to join our community, just click the link in the description below or find my community on Patreon, English with Vlad. And I want to give you a task for this podcast. Go ahead, find that community, and pick one gold standard of English article, post, and try to shadow that native speaker. There are already many native speakers in that collection, only the best ones, only the ones that have literally gold standard of English that you want to emulate and you want to copy. I also want to remind you that in our community we have a voice-only chat where you can record your shadowing and other pronunciation exercises, and I will personally review them and will give you feedback on your micro-shadowing and other exercises. And guys, remember, English learning is a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone. Join our community and let's do it together. I'll see you in the next one.